Because why you room of Kukutatika la. Tafla rida ku rumela na boreson. Muftis no go mela. I've been in a trigger, guys. Question 3. It's Eastern Cape. This was EC June exam. June exam 2023. 2024. Okay. And I ring it and go end at 3.1. If it is given that the square root of 13 sine x minus 3 equals 0, and the restriction is that x an element of 0 degrees to 90 degrees, without using a calculator, with the aid of sketch, determine the value of tan x. Determine the value of tan x. So now you are given the square root of 13 sine x minus 3, it is equals to 0. So you need to first simplify this, or you let sine x the subject of the formula. So in this case, you're going to say the square root of 13 sine x, it is equals to 3. It is equals to positive 3, okay? And then from this part, you need to divide both sides by the square root of 13. Square root of 13. And this will cancel. You remain with the sine x equals to 3 divided by the square root of 13. Now, we need to check, because we have been told about the restrictions. The restrictions in this case, we know that this is 0, 90, 180, 270, 360 in that order, okay? So now, the restrictions are x an element of 0 to 90 degrees, meaning x will be between 0 and 90. So it means our 0 and 90 is the first quadrant, okay? 0 and 90 is the first quadrant, from 0 to 90. From 90 is the first quadrant. So you are going to draw your right angle triangle in the first quadrant. So this is our 90. And then you know that the angle here, it will be x. X, okay? And we know that sine, it's opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So in this case, the opposite of this x is 3 here, and the hypotenuse is the square root of 13. So now we are to determine the adjacent side. So our adjacent side in this case, it will be x squared plus y squared is equals to r squared. So x squared it is equals to r squared minus y squared. And then you apply the square root both sides. You remain with x, it is equals to the square root of our r is square root of 13 squared minus y is 3 what? Squared. And then when you use your calculator, in this case, you are getting, when you use a calculator, we are getting, let me try to find this, the square root of 13 squared minus 3 square root, minus 3, sorry, this calculator is no longer working properly, but let me try. Squared, and then we're getting, you can't even see this, this calculator is giving me something here. Can somebody use his or a calculator and tell me the answer on the comment section? Because I'm trying here, my calculator is giving me something else, but I know that this will be 13. Okay, it's 13 minus 9. The answer is 2 here. The answer is 2, guys. I'm getting 2. So it's basically plus or minus 2, because the square root of 13 squared is 13. Minus 9, or minus 3 squared is 9. So 13 minus 9, it's 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So basically here, the answer will be equals to 2, because line like a positive side of x. Okay, now we try to determine 3.1. Our 3.1.1 in this case, it's a tan x. Our tan x, to determine tan x is what? The tan of x, it is equals to 3 divided by 2. Opposite is 3. 3 divided by what? By 2. Done. So this will be your answer. So in most cases, if you are given tan x, therefore you can say this is 3 divided by 2, just like this. Because sometimes we equate directly. U ta twa ingaku u lava ku determine x, ku determine the value of tan x. 3.1.2. Our 3.1.2, that's saying you need to determine sine 360 plus x. Our sine 360 plus x. Sine 360 plus x is reduction lay. So reduction, if ever this is a reduction, you need to check the quadrant where you can find 360 plus. So 360 plus, you can find this in quadrant number 1. So sine is positive there. Therefore, sine x is what? Sine x, we know that is 3 divided by the square root of 13. Done. Let's move to 3.1.3. 3.1.3. Our 3.1.3 is cos squared x minus sine squared x. The cos squared x minus sine squared x. Okay. Our cos here, it's adjacent 2 divided by 13. The square root of 13 squared minus sine is 3 divided by square root of 13 squared equal to 2 squared. It's 4. 4 divided by 13 minus 9 divided by 13. So the answer in this case, when denominators are the same, you add or you subtract the numerators. So this will be 4 minus 9, which is equals to negative 9 divided by 13. Done. Okay, let's move to 3.2. Our 3.2 in this case, our 3.2, 3.2. Our 3.2, they are saying, if sine 40 is equals to p, determine the following in terms of p without using a calculator. The sine 220 degrees. So in this case, if you are given sine 40 degrees, it is equals to p. You know that p can be divided by 1. You know that p can be divided by 1. You're going to divide p by 1. And then now you're going to say, we know that sine is opposite divided by hypotenuse. So you draw your right angle triangle. There is no restriction for this. And then our opposite here is 1. So basically it's 40 degrees. And the opposite of this 40 is 1. And the hypotenuse here is p. Now we have to determine the x value. The x value, it will be the square root of 1 minus p squared. Okay? The square root of 1 minus what? P squared. So now, if we have something like this, now you can determine the sine of 40 degrees, right? Not the sine of the 40 degrees. So it's 3.2.1. They're saying you need to determine sine 220. Sine 220, it's sine 220 degrees. Somebody's calling. I'm busy with math. Somebody's calling. Hey, but Chris, take this number and call this person. Tell him that I'm busy. Now we guys are not farming. You know, when you are trying to be busy here, people will be calling like nobody's business. Take this number with Chris. And then come guys, by this time, phone. So you need to reduce this into an acute angle. So now, since this is 40, you have to find the third angle, okay? The third angle in this case, it will be 90 minus 40, which is 50. So here will be 50 degrees, right? So now you can determine sine 220 degrees. So sine 220 degrees, you need to make sure that you use the reductions, okay? Reduction. So when you get the sine 220, it means this will be sine 180 minus what? Minus plus 40 degrees. Then now the reduction 1 plus, you can find this in quadrant number 3, I mean, quadrant number 3. Sine is negative in quadrant number 3, so it's negative sine 40 degrees. And then from this part now, you define sine 40. Our sine 40 is opposite divided by hypotenuse, so it's minus p, okay? Our 3.2.2, the cos of negative 40 degrees. This is a negative angle. We have been talking about this, right? So since we have this negative angle, you're going to add 360. So it's basically cos 40 degrees. It's positive cos 40 degrees. So the cos 40 degrees, it's square root cos 40. Cos 40 is the square root of 1 minus p squared divided by p. Done. We're done with this question. So let's move to 3.3 now. Let's move to 3.3. Let's move to 3.3. Our 3.3 in this case, I'm moving to 3.3 now. Our 3.3, they're saying, question 3.3. Let me move this question paper here. 3.3, yeah. Without using a calculator, we have to determine 3.3.1. Sine 90 minus x divided by cos x minus 180 degrees minus 2 cos negative x. In this case, if I'm going to simplify, how do we simplify this? My battery is slow, but how do we simplify this? My battery is slow here. Low battery mode. Sure, it's a low battery mode. We're gonna have problems here, but let me finish up. So here it's sine 90 minus x. Okay, so the sine of 90 minus x, you know that this will give us cos of x, because these are what are co-functions. Okay, it's co-functions. So here you divide by, when you divide the cos of x minus 108, if you can add 306, you're going to have cos of x, you're going to have something like this. Let me show you. The cos of x minus 180 degrees, here you can have the following. You can have the cos of x minus 180 degrees plus 360 degrees. So at the end of the day, you're going to have cos of 180 degrees plus x. Therefore, the answer in this case will be negative cos of x. So do not be surprised when I write negative cos of x. Okay, and then from this part now you can multiply by, because it's multiplication, right? No, it's not multiplication, it's minus. So with this minus, it will be 2 cos x. You do not say cos multiplied by negative x, but a trig function multiplied by a negative number, you need to make sure that you add 360 degrees. And then from this part now, you can say this will be our cos of x. So these are like terms, okay? These two are like terms. So you divide by negative cos x minus 2x, the same as, let me try to use algebra. It's negative x minus 2x. Negative x minus 2x is negative 3x. So basically here we're getting what? We're getting negative 3 cos of x, okay? And then from here now, you know that you can cancel cos x, you remain with the negative 1 divided by 3. And then we are done with this question. So let's move to 3.3.2. Our 3.3.2. We're given the cos of 200 degrees divided by the tan 405 degrees. multiplied by the sine of negative 150 degrees multiplied by the cos of 340 degrees. So we are to simplify this as well. So this is what we can do in this case. Let me just pause for now and you guys try to simplify. 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes to simplify this, right? Thanks. Okay, now this one here, we need to reduce this into special angles or acute angles, right? So this one will be the cos of what? Cos of 180 degrees plus 20 degrees, right? This is an acute angle. Unfortunately, it's not a special angle. It means we are going to get something like 20 degrees through the denominator. So the 405, we're going to use 360, right? This will be 405. So it's basically 360 minus, let me check, minus, yeah, it's 360 plus, right? It will be tan 360 plus 45 degrees multiplied by the sine of negative 150, sine of negative 150. It's basically 50. It's basically negative. So it will be 30, this one, because to get rid of this negative here, I'm going to use 108. Okay, so it's basically going to be 180. It's sine, let me just use sine negative 180 plus 30 degrees multiplied by the 340. Now 340, so this will be the cos of 360 degrees minus 20 degrees. And then from this part now you can simplify, right? So when we simplify here, we're getting negative cos 20 degrees, because 180 degrees plus 20, this lies in the third quadrant, so cos is negative. You divide by the tan 360 plus 45. This it's our fourth quadrant, and then we know that no, this one is the first quadrant, and then we know that tan is positive. Okay, and then multiply by the negative sign. Negative, this will be negative sine 30 degrees. Okay, multiply by the cos of 360, which is cos 20 degrees. Okay, and then from this part now you are going to divide these two. This will cancel out because they are both cos, right? So you're going to cancel cos 20 and cos 20. You remain with negative 1 divided by 1, because tan 45 is 1, multiplied by negative half, because sine 30 is half, so multiply by negative. And then from this part now you can say negative 1 multiplied by, negative 1 divided by multiplied by negative half. So it's negative 1 divided by 1 multiplied by negative half. And then we are getting 2. So this will be 2 if you can use your calculator. So the answer is 2. Let's move to the proving part. We need to prove that sine theta minus cos theta multiplied by the sine theta divided by the cos of theta minus 1 minus sine squared theta, it is equals to tan of theta. So in this case now you need to prove. How do we prove this? You check the most complicated side between the two. The complicated side is the left hand side, which is equals to sine theta minus cos of theta multiplied by the sine of theta divided by the cos of theta minus 1 minus sine squared theta. Okay, and then now you know that the numerator forms a binomial, right? So before we can factor out in this case, let me just copy the numerator sine theta minus cos theta sine theta divided by this part here. We know that since the right hand side is tan theta, it means we must remain with sine. Numerator must be sine and the denominator must be cos. So we need to change this. Okay, so we are going to actually change this into cos. So this will be cos of theta minus 1 minus cos squared theta is what? 1 minus sine squared theta, it's cos squared theta. It's a binomial again. So whenever you have a binomial, you need to factor out. You factor out sine of theta, you remain with 1 minus cos of theta divided by the cos of theta. Factor out cos of theta, you remain with 1 minus cos theta. So these two will cancel out. You cancel these two, you remain with sine theta divided by cos theta, it is equal to tan theta. Done. And then let's move to we are moving to the general solution part. The general solution part, we are given the following. So this is the last question that we have to deal with. We need to determine the general solution. So the general solution in this case, it's 3 divided by 2, the tan of theta minus 10 degrees plus 1,077 equals to 0. So you need to determine the general solution. So the general solution in this case now, all right, you need to make sure that you remain with 1 tan theta minus 10 degrees on your left hand side. So in this case now, let's make tan theta minus 10 degrees the subject of the formula. So this will be 3 divided by 2 tan theta minus 10 degrees. It is equals to negative 1,077. So you multiply by 2 divided by 3 both sides, because you want to get rid of this 3 divided by 2. So you cancel this, and then this will cancel out, right? And then remain with 1. So this will be tan theta minus 10 degrees. It is equals to, when you multiply this, you are getting it's negative 1,077 multiplied by 2. Multiplied by 2. So this negative 2,154 divided by 3. And then now you can divide this to make things easier. So this will be tan theta minus 10 degrees equal to, so you divide this, use your calculator. When you use your calculator, it's minus 2,154. You divide by 3. And the answer here, it's negative 0,718. Now you can determine the reference angle. To determine the reference angle in this case, our reference angle will be equals to arctan 0,718. Arctan 0,718. And then when you use your calculator here, it's a shift tan 0,718. And the answer in this case is 35,68 degrees, okay? And then from this part, this is your reference angle. So after getting your reference angle, now you can check the quadrants. This negative here, it helps us to find where, or it tell us whether tan is positive or negative. So in this case, since we have a negative value, it means tan is negative. So you go straight to the quadrants where tan is negative. Tan is negative in quadrant number 2 and quadrant number 4. So our theta minus 10 degrees, it is equals to 180 minus 35,68 degrees plus k times 36, or 360 times k. Okay? And then now you're going to say theta, it is equals to 180, let me use a calculator, 180 minus 35,68 plus 10. I'm adding 10 because we want to remain with theta. So this will be 154,32 plus 360 times k, where k, it's an element of all what? Integers. Or our theta will be 360 minus 35,68 plus 10 degrees plus 360 times k. Then now use your calculator. 360 minus 35,68 plus 10. And then we are getting 334 degrees, comma 32 plus 360 times k, where k is an element of all what? Integers. And then we are done. So this is how you can solve your trigonometry. And please guys, make sure that you practice this maths and you write what we taught you, you apply what we taught you in the classroom, or as well as YouTube, live on YouTube, until we meet again around past 5. Around past 5, we shall be doing the Euclidean geometry. For now, it was only analytical and trig, and I managed to answer all the questions from KZN and Eastern Cape. So later on it will be Limpopo paper and see what they are telling us in Limpopo. Thank you very much, guys. Sharp.